Is sleep truly unconscious? Every night, we close our eyes and fall asleep. We say, "I know nothing when I sleep." We believe that sleep is the loss of consciousness. But if that's true, then who is the one who says, "I slept very well upon waking"? This seemingly simple question is actually the secret door to enlightened wisdom, pointed out directly by Ramana Maharshi. Without circumlocution, without complex philosophy, without ritualistic systems, Ramana Maharshi doesn't teach people to create awareness. He points out that awareness never leaves you, even when you are in deep sleep. In the Advaita Vedanta tradition, deep sleep, sushupti, is not an inferior state, but a place where the ego completely dissolves, where there is no thought, no self, no world, and therefore it is closer to the true self than any other state known to mankind. People sleep and call it unconsciousness. Enlightened people sleep and dwell in pure awareness. This article is not intended to offer a new technique, not a method of dream control, not a practice of superpowers, but rather a return to what is always present, what Ramana Maharshi calls the true self, Atman. If you have ever wondered, who am I when I don't think? Who am I when I don't dream? Who am I when I don't remember who I am? Then perhaps you are very close to the door of awakening right in your sleep. Understanding the three states of consciousness. According to the wisdom of Ramana Maharshi, Ramana Maharshi often began not with answers, but with questions that broke the foundation of conventional understanding. He said, people go through three states every day: waking, dreaming, and deep sleep, but they never truly understand any of them. 1. The state of waking, Jagrat. As you are reading these words, you call it awake. But Ramana Maharshi would ask, who is awake? In the state of waking, there is a body, there are thoughts, there are emotions, there is an I observing the world. But all of these things are constantly changing. Thoughts come and go, emotions arise and cease. The body ages with each passing moment. So if everything changes, what is the foundation of knowing that I am awake? People call this state of awareness. Ramana Maharshi calls it waking in a dream, because the self operating in wakefulness is not much different from the self in a dream. 2. The dream state, Svapna. In a dream, you have a dream body, a dream world, dream events. While dreaming, you believe everything is real. Only upon waking do you say, "No, it was just a dream." Ramana Maharshi further asks, what guarantees that the current state of wakefulness is not a longer dream? The key lies not in the content of the dream or life, but in the person who is aware of both. 3. The deep sleep state, Sushupti. This is where the real secret begins. In deep sleep, there are no thoughts, there are no images, there is no world, there is no individual I. And yet, upon waking, you say, "I slept very well. I know nothing." Ramana Maharshi smiled and asked, if you truly know nothing, how do you know that you don't know? That very statement overturned the entire common understanding of sleep. Deep sleep is not unconsciousness. Deep sleep is a state without an object, but awareness is still present. The only difference between an ordinary person and an enlightened person is, ordinary person, awareness is obscured while awake and is not recognized while asleep. Enlightened person, awareness knows itself, without thought, without an object. 4. Ramana Maharshi's central question. Who is asleep? If you truly question this not with your mind, but with direct introspection, you will begin to realize a shocking truth. What is asleep is not you. The one who is awake throughout the three states is you. 5. Sleep of ignorance and sleep of awareness. Sleep of ignorance, dissolving into the unconscious, controlled by karmic forces, without the light of awareness. Sleep of awareness, no longer a self, but awareness shines forth, dwelling in the true self. Ramana Maharshi doesn't tell you to learn how to sleep of awareness. He only says, know who you are while awake. When that is clear, awareness will naturally be present even in sleep. The greatest secret: consciousness doesn't disappear during sleep. Enlightened people still know in deep sleep. Does consciousness really disappear when you sleep? 1. Common misconception: sleeping means loss of consciousness. If we ask an ordinary person, when you sleep, do you know anything? They will immediately answer, no, I know absolutely nothing. That answer sounds reasonable, but Ramana Maharshi wasn't interested in logical reasoning. He was interested in direct experience. He asked again, if you know nothing, how do you know that you don't know? At that moment, the mind paused, because clearly some form of knowing was present, enough to acknowledge that. During that time, there was no object of knowing. And this is the crucial point that most people miss. The absence of an object does not mean the absence of consciousness. 2. Ramana Maharshi rejects the concept of sleep is unconsciousness. According to Ramana Maharshi, consciousness is not a function of the brain, nor is it a product of thought. Consciousness is the fundamental essence of existence. When you are awake, consciousness reflects through thought. When you dream, consciousness creates subtle images. When you are in deep sleep, consciousness does not reflect any object, but the light is still there. Ramana Maharshi uses a very subtle metaphor. The light in the room does not disappear when there is no object to illuminate it. It is just that there is nothing to be illuminated. Deep sleep is not darkness. Deep sleep is light without an object. 3. The light of self-awareness in deep sleep. In deep sleep, there is no thinker, there is no observer, there is no perceived world, but there is pure existence. That is why when you wake up, you don't say, I didn't exist last night. Instead, you say, I slept very deeply, very peacefully. Where does that feeling of peace come from? Not from thoughts, not from memories, not from the body. It comes from the temporary dissolution of the ego, leaving the true self to illuminate itself. Ordinary people touch this state every night, but don't realize it. Enlightened people realize that what I have been searching for my whole life is what is most clearly present when I am no longer I. 4. Comparison with Advaita wisdom and scriptures. In Advaita Vedanta, deep sleep, sushupti, is seen as a state of non-duality, no subject-object, no division. The Upanishads say, in deep sleep, the soul returns to itself. Ramana Maharshi goes a step further. He not only says the soul returns, but says, you never left it. It is only when awake that you are swept up in the pulsating waves of the mind. 5. Why do ordinary people not recognize consciousness during sleep? Because their awareness depends on the object. They only know when there are thoughts, there are feelings, there are images. When all of that disappears, they conclude, I don't know. But Ramana Maharshi points out a different truth. Awareness needs nothing to know. It knows itself by itself. The enlightened one does nothing in sleep. They simply do not lose themselves. Who is sleeping? Who knows? Seeking the true self beyond body and mind. If there is one question that runs throughout the entire teachings of Ramana Maharshi, it is not how to awaken, but who am I? And nowhere does this question become sharper than when confronted with sleep. 1. What really sleeps? When you say, I sleep, you are implicitly asserting that there is an I who has experienced sleep. But observe carefully. The body lies there. The mind ceases to function. The individual self disappears. So what sleeps? Ramana Maharshi answers very directly. What sleeps is the body and mind. The knowing that the body and mind have slept does not sleep. 2. Who knows all three states? You know, when you are awake, when you are dreaming, when you have just experienced deep sleep. What is continuously present in all three states? Not the body, because the body does not appear in dreams. Not the mind, because the mind is not active in deep sleep. So there is only one possibility. It is the true self, pure awareness. Ramana Maharshi calls it Atman, self-nature. I am. 3. I am neither sleeping, neither waking, neither dreaming. One of the biggest misunderstandings of mankind is thinking, I am the one experiencing. Ramana Maharshi completely reverses this. You do not experience the states. The states appear within you. Sleep appears. Dreams appear. Daytime wakefulness appears. You, as awareness, neither come nor go. 4. The practice of questioning before sleep. Not a technique, but a return. Before sleeping, Ramana Maharshi advises against mantra recitation, breath control, image formation. Just one thing. Seek the feeling of I and stay there. As the body gradually relaxes, as thoughts fade, gently ask, what is aware of this dissolution? Don't answer verbally. Sink into the silence behind the question. If you don't leave there, sleep will come, but you are not lost. 5. The great transformation moment. There is a very fragile moment when you are no longer awake, but not yet asleep. The ordinary person loses themselves there. The practitioner clings to technique. The enlightened one dissolves into oneself. Ramana Maharshi said, if you do not lose your true self at this boundary, you will realize that you have never slept. Deep sleep, the gateway to liberation. Why Ramana Maharshi considered deep sleep the state closest to enlightenment. In most spiritual traditions, people are taught to strive, to reach, to conquer a higher state. But Ramana Maharshi did the opposite. He didn't just climb to the mountaintop. He only descended to the deepest depths of human experience and said, there, freedom has always been present, and that deepest depth is deep sleep. 1. Deep sleep is not an inferior state. People see deep sleep as loss of control, unconsciousness, darkness. But Ramana Maharshi saw in it a completely different truth. In deep sleep, there is no ego, there is no desire, there is no fear, there is no suffering. So if suffering only arises when the ego arises, then the state of egolessness is the state of freedom. Ramana Maharshi asked, if deep sleep is suffering, why do people long for deep sleep? 2. Deep sleep and Samadhi. What are they similar? In Samadhi, the mind is silent, the ego vanishes. There is no subject-object. In deep sleep, the mind is inactive. The ego disappears. There is no subject-object. What is the only difference? Awareness. In the deep sleep of an ordinary person, awareness is not recognized. In Samadhi, awareness knows itself. Ramana Maharshi said something very important. Deep sleep is Samadhi of ignorance. Samadhi is deep sleep of awakened awareness. 3. The unconscious and the superconscious, a fine line. Many people mistakenly believe deep sleep equals unconsciousness. Awakening equals thinking. Ramana Maharshi completely breaks down this duality. He points out, the unconscious is a lack of awareness. The superconscious is awareness without an object. Deep sleep has the potential to become superconsciousness, but only if the light of self-awareness is not lost. Therefore, Ramana does not teach you to go into deep sleep, but teaches you not to leave yourself when deep sleep occurs. 4. Why is deep sleep the gateway to liberation? Because in deep sleep, the ego dissolves naturally. No effort is needed. No discipline is needed. No practice is needed. Everything you seek in meditation happens every night. There is only one difference. You are not there. It is not because you are absent. but because you are misidentifying with body and mind. Ramana Maharshi emphasized, liberation is not about achieving something new. Liberation is about realizing what has never been lost. Techniques for awakening before sleep. The word technique here is easily misleading. Ramana Maharshi never encouraged adding anything to the experience. He did not teach sleep control, consciousness control, maintaining a special state. He taught only one thing: do not depart from the true self. 1. The most important thing before sleep. Before sleeping, most people drowse into thought, carry worries, let their minds wander freely. Ramana Maharshi said, the moment before sleep is the most important gateway to awakening, not because it is a special state, but because the mind is dissolving, the ego is weakening, the unity is loosening. If you return to the right place now, you will not be swept away. 2. No technique, only inquiry. Ramana Maharshi did not give a complicated exercise. He simply said, find out who is preparing to sleep. Don't answer with thoughts. Feel directly the feeling of I am present. No image, no words, just I am. Stay there. 3. Let go of body. Let go of mind. Do not let go of awareness. When sleep comes, the body will gradually become heavier. Breath will become natural. Thoughts will become less frequent. Don't resist. Don't cling. Don't try to stay awake. Just don't chase after the final thought. Don't leave the feeling of being. Ramana Maharshi said, sleep will come, but you don't need to follow it. Namaste.